The rain tapped lightly against the glass as I stepped off the cab, suitcase wheels squeaking softly on the wet pavement. Streetlights blurred through the droplets, casting long, distorted shadows across the empty street. I shivered, not from the cold, but from the unsettling calm that wrapped around the neighborhood like a blanket I didn't trust. Inside, the apartment smelled faintly of lavender and old books, a scent that should have been comforting, but somehow felt charged, expectant. I dropped my keys on the counter, listening. The silence wasn't empty. It waited. From the corner of the room, movement caught my eye. 3 figures emerged, calm, deliberate, almost too precise. One tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes like steel. Another, older, with silver at his temples and the quiet weight of experience in his presence. The third, younger, with a faint grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Evening," said the youngest, voice low, familiar, and slightly amused, as if we'd already met in 1,000 unspoken ways. I froze, suitcase still in hand, heart hammering, not out of fear, but anticipation. Something about their presence made the air thicker, charged. Without waiting for my permission, they moved closer. Not aggressively, not threateningly, simply present. My breath hitched as the tall one extended a hand, not in demand, but in invitation. I placed my hand in his, and immediately a sense of grounding spread through me. My chest eased, my heartbeat slowing, as if it recognized a rhythm it had missed. "Sit," said the older man, nodding toward the worn couch. "We're here to guide you tonight." A guide? My mind flared with questions, yet curiosity kept me rooted. I set the suitcase aside and sank into the cushions, feeling the weight of their attention settle around me. They didn't speak for a moment, allowing the silence to stretch, letting me acclimate. Then the youngest, leaning slightly forward, said, "You've been running inside your own mind. Let us help you see clearly." The words weren't a suggestion, they were a promise. We began simply, with breathing. The tall one guided my palms to his, counting silently as I followed. Inhale, exhale, inhale. The cadence was hypnotic. My worries about work, relationships, mistakes, failures softened with each synchronized breath. "You've been living in fragments," the older man murmured, voice steady, like a gentle hand smoothing out knots in a tangled rope. "Tonight, we're here to help you put the pieces together." I blinked, overwhelmed by the intimacy of the moment. Not physical, not even verbal, but something deeper. A connection I hadn't realized I craved, a psychological tether to reality that felt simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. The room seemed smaller now, but in a comforting way, like the world had contracted to the 3 figures and me. Each subtle movement, a soft footstep, a quiet shift of weight, made my skin tingle. My mind raced yet settled, twisting between anticipation and trust. The youngest leaned closer. "What do you fear most?" I wanted to answer honestly, to reveal the dark, jagged edges of my thoughts, the loneliness, the longing, the constant ache of being alive yet unfulfilled. "I fear I'll forget what it's like to feel alive," I admitted. No judgment, only understanding. The broad-shouldered one placed a steady hand on my shoulder, not touching forcefully, just a reminder that I was not alone. The older one nodded, almost imperceptibly, as if acknowledging that truth in me. It was the first time in months that I didn't feel the need to hide, to shield, to mask my vulnerability. And in that vulnerability, a spark ignited, warm, daring, electric. A knock at the door made my heart jump. My hands trembled slightly, and I realized I hadn't even noticed how tense I'd become. One of them glanced toward the door, expression unreadable. "It's your choice," said the older man. "You can open it or not." Curiosity won. I opened it to reveal a figure standing in the dim hallway. Someone I didn't expect, someone who would alter the rhythm of the night entirely. The tension swirled, unpredictable, intoxicating. He stepped inside quietly, letting his eyes take in the room without speaking. His presence was different from the others, less formal, more immediate, like a rush of warmth brushing against the edges of my awareness. He caught my gaze, and for a brief second, time seemed suspended. I could feel the pulse of his energy through the space between us. Without a word, he moved closer, close enough that I noticed the faint scent of cedar and rain lingering on him. His hand brushed against mine lightly, not an accident, but a deliberate, grounding touch. I swallowed, heart picking up pace. We sank into an easy rhythm of small gestures and subtle closeness. I handed him a glass of water, our fingers brushing, and the small shock of connection traveled up my arm. He didn't pull away, letting the contact linger long enough to make my chest ache with anticipation. Every glance, every quiet breath, every shift of weight seemed to carry weight. Nothing was forced, yet the tension hummed like a low current in the air. My eyes wandered over him, noting the way he observed the room, the way his lips pressed into a careful line, the way his hands rested near his sides, steady, unhurried, as if he had all the time in the world. Minutes passed in this quiet intimacy. I adjusted the pendant around my neck, feeling it slide against my fingers, a small tactile reminder that I was present. He leaned slightly, waiting, just enough that I felt the warmth of proximity without pressure. My forehead brushed against his lightly, in a gesture so soft it almost felt like a shared secret. He responded with a small, grounding pressure of his hand on my shoulder, anchoring me. Our breaths synchronized, and the space between us seemed to shrink, carrying a weight that neither of us needed words to define. A soft laugh escaped me when he tilted his head, a mix of amusement and vulnerability mirrored in his eyes. He mirrored me, careful, patient, inviting. Every movement, every touch was deliberate, thoughtful, each holding the quiet promise of connection. I leaned back slightly, letting my hand rest near his arm. He responded with equal measure, neither forward nor withdrawn, simply present. The world outside the apartment seemed to dissolve, leaving only the warmth and intensity of the shared moment. Then he spoke, low and steady. "You don't have to hide." The simplicity of the words cut through me. I looked up, meeting his eyes, and for the first time in months, I felt seen, not just observed, but understood. I nodded slightly, letting the acknowledgement settle. The tension in my shoulders eased. I reached toward him instinctively, fingertips grazing the edge of his sleeve, just enough to establish a connection without words. His hand lifted, meeting mine, gently, thumbs brushing lightly, grounding me. The atmosphere shifted subtly. Each figure in the room remained near, attentive yet unobtrusive, allowing the focus to remain on the unspoken intimacy between us. I moved closer, sitting at the edge of the counter, balancing myself, feeling the warmth of his presence. His hand rested near mine, steady and supportive, never pressing, never demanding. Our foreheads met lightly again, and a quiet electricity pulsed through the room, the subtle thrill of connection without rush or urgency. Hours seemed to pass in a blur of careful gestures, lingering touches, and quiet laughter. Every glance, every subtle movement built upon the last, weaving a tapestry of emotional intimacy that transcended mere words. The night became a cocoon of suspended reality, where anticipation, trust, and desire existed in perfect harmony. When the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, painting the room in soft golden hues, the closeness between us had only deepened. We sat together, hands occasionally brushing, breathing in sync, hearts quietly aware of one another. There was no rush, no expectation, only the profound awareness of shared presence. For the first time, the weight of loneliness, of fear, of hesitation had lifted. I felt alive, fully and completely, immersed in the gentle intensity of this unplanned, quiet connection. Even as the day began, there was no need to speak. Words would only dilute the richness of the shared moment. We moved in tandem, subtly, intuitively, each action deliberate yet effortless. A brush of the hand, a tilt of the head, a shared look, each communicated volumes. And in that silence, in that intimacy, I realized that the night had rewritten the rules. It had taken the ordinary and transformed it into something extraordinary, something entirely our own. The tension, the thrill, the quiet understanding lingered long after the first light had settled across the room. I leaned back, eyes closed, feeling the warmth of presence, the steadiness of hands, the calm of hearts in sync. The world outside could wait. Here, now, nothing existed but the closeness we had created, deliberate and unspoken, perfect in its authenticity.